Hi everyone, welcome back to this short tutorial from Pathology Made Simple at ilovepathology.com. In continuation with the series on cardiomyopathies, in today's session, let's discuss a very important type of cardiomyopathy, that is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. In my previous session, I had discussed about dilated cardiomyopathy, right? So we know that cardiomyopathies, there are three distinct pathological patterns. One is dilated cardiomyopathy, two is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and the third one is restrictive cardiomyopathy. We know that the dilated cardiomyopathy is the most common and the restrictive cardiomyopathy is the least frequent type, right? So we have discussed about dilated cardiomyopathy. Now let's see what is this hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. This is an heterogeneous genetic disorder which is characterized by myocardial hypertrophy. And that's the reason why it is called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's pretty simple, right? Basically, there is poor compliance of the left ventricular myocardium, which leads to abnormal diastolic filling. That is very, very important. Okay. So there will be abnormal diastolic filling. Apart from abnormal diastolic filling, there will also be an intermittent ventricular outflow obstruction in at least one third of cases. Okay, during the contraction of the myocardium, particularly the left ventricle, there can be ventricular outflow obstruction because of the massive hypertrophy of the interventricular septum. Now, if you cannot make out, if you cannot identify the cause for left ventricular hypertrophy, then this primary hypertrophic cardiomyopathy will be considered as the leading cause of left ventricular hypertrophy, particularly when you cannot explain hypertrophy due to any other clinical or pathological causes. Now, let us understand the pathogenesis of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. This is autosomal dominant condition with variable penetrance, which means we know what autosomal dominant condition is, right? Which means even if one copy of mutated gene is present, irrespective of from which parent it is derived from, the sibling will have the manifestation, right? That is autosomal dominant condition. Now, variable penetrance mean not all the individuals with mutated gene show similar features. Got this point? It is autosomal dominant with variable penetrance. Now, what are all the genes which are affected? The genes which are affected are the ones which encode sarcomeric proteins. And we know that sarcomere is basically a basic contractile unit of cardiac myocyte. Now, what are all the genes? The most commonly, the genes involved are the myosin binding protein C, genes encoding the myosin binding protein C, gene encoding beta myosin heavy chain, and the genes encoding cardiac troponin I, troponin T, and alpha tropomyosin. So 70 to 80% of the cases, it would be the genes affecting either of these proteins. So what you need to remember, the basic pathogenetic mechanism is mutation involving the genes which encode sarcomeric proteins. So what? So what if the sarcomeric protein genes are mutated? There will be defective sarcomeric proteins, right? And if there are defective sarcomeric proteins, what really happens is that there will be defective energy transfer from its source of generation, which means we know that the mitochondria is the source of energy, right? Normally, what happens is the ATP is generated by the mitochondria, right, which is the energy source, and that will be utilized by the sarcomeres. Now we know that the proteins of sarcomeres are defective, right? So what happens? So mitochondria may be making enough of ATP, but the transfer and the utilization of the ATP at the sarcomeres is defective. That is the basic mechanism because of defective proteins of the sarcomeres. Now, once there are defective sarcomeric proteins or the energy utilization is defective, then there will be inefficient contraction leading on to increased workload and finally compensatory hypertrophy, and that is the mechanism for the final development of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Got this point? So there will be defective energy transfer. Remember the word defective energy transfer. Now, macroscopically, there will be massive myocardial hypertrophy, usually without ventricular dilatation. In my earlier session, we had discussed about dilated cardiomyopathy, right? There will be dilatation of the chamber as well as hypertrophy, whereas in this case, there will be hypertrophy but no dilatation. Another important feature is that there will be disproportionate thickening of the ventricular septum, okay, relative to the free ventricular wall or ventricular free wall, particularly the left ventricular free wall. You can make out that the septum itself is more broader than the free wall of the left ventricle. So that is defective or disproportionate thickening, which is also referred to as asymmetric septal hypertrophy. But in around 10% of cases, the hypertrophy can be concentric and symmetrical. Because of the hypertrophy of the interventricular septum, the cavity of the left ventricular may be compressed. Okay, because of the bulge of the interventricular septal hypertrophy, the ventricular cavity will be compressed, resulting in a very characteristic appearance called banana-like configuration. Can you make out that this is almost like a compromised ventricular cavity, looking as if it looks like a banana, right? So that's why it's called banana-like configuration of the ventricular cavity, particularly the left ventricular cavity. Now, septal hypertrophy. Where do you find septal hypertrophy? The most prominent region of septal hypertrophy will be the subaortic region. Okay, this is where septal hypertrophy will be the most prominent, particularly in the subaortic region, right? And the if you observe carefully the left ventricular outflow tract, this is the left ventricular outflow tract, right? So what really happens is that there can be evidence of the endocardium being fibrotic. Okay, you can find the plaques, fibrotic plaques in the endocardial surface. Also, you can find thickening of the anterior mitral leaflet. The reason for that is because of the contraction of the left ventricular wall, the anterior leaflet, it basically frequently, it touches the endocardium at the outflow tract, left ventricular outflow tract during ventricular systole. Because of frequent, touching of this anterior mitral leaflet with the septum, these two manifestations, the fibrous endocardial plaque as well as thickening of the anterior mitral leaflet, will be seen. Okay, and that this is the reason for the characteristic systolic anterior motion of the anterior leaflet in echocardiography. Now, microscopically, very classically, there will be massive myocardial hypertrophy. Not only gross feature, even in microscopic examination, you can find that the individual myocytes are hypertrophied. The transverse diameters of the the myocardium or the myofiber, particularly the myocyte, what we call myocyte, will be greater than 40 micron meter. Normally, the transverse diameter is this is a normal left ventricular wall or the cardiac, muscle, which will be parallelly placed to one another. A normal diameter itself is around 15 micrometer, whereas in left ventricular hypertrophy, particularly hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, the transverse diameter is very, very huge. And the characteristic feature is that you find this haphazard, disarray of bundles of myocytes. It can be disarray of bundles of myocytes. It can be disarray of the individual myocytes and contractile elements within the sarcomeres in all these myocytes. And this is referred to as myofiber disarray, a very characteristic feature of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Sometimes you can find fibrotic narrowing of the small intramural arteries, and also you can see there will be fibrosis in the interstitium. Okay, this is called as interstitial and replacement fibrosis. So these are the characteristic microscopic features of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Now, what are all the clinical features and prognosis? See, the core issue in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is the left ventricular chamber size is decreased, and there is also reduced compliance because of the massively hypertrophied left ventricular, right? And that results in impaired diastolic filling. This is the diagnostic criteria, right? And because of impaired diastolic filling, there will be reduced stroke volume, which compromises the cardiac output, and finally the patients manifest with exertional dyspnea. So that's the mechanism underlying the exertional dyspnea in these patients. So ventricular outflow obstruction can result in harsh systolic ejection murmur on auscultation. That's because of ventricular outflow obstruction. See, the outcome can be either the patient can go in for atrial fibrillation. There can be mural thrombus formation, which can lead to embolization, and because of embolization, the patient also might have stroke. Patient can manifest with intractable cardiac failure, can present with ventricular arrhythmias, and not infrequently sudden cardiac death. How do you treat hypertrophic cardiomyopathy? Usually, they are treated with beta adrenergic blockers, and that's basically to decrease the heart rate and contractility. For the patients who are at risk for ventricular arrhythmias, they are treated with implantable cardioverter defibrillators. And then, if nothing works, there is a possibility of reduction of septal myocardial mass. And because you reduce the septal myocardial mass, it can relieve the outflow tract obstruction. Now, how do you reduce the myocardial mass? It can either be surgical excision of the cardiac muscle itself, or can be by controlled septal infarction, which is usually through a catheter based infusion of alcohol. Okay, resulting in reduction of the septal myocardial mass. So that is how you treat patients of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. So that's all about hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. In my next session, let's learn about restrictive cardiomyopathy, and then we complete the whole series on cardiomyopathies. Thank you for watching. Click on that like button if you have liked this video. Do comment if you have anything to ask. If you find this video useful, please consider subscribing, and then please do not forget to share with your friends. Thank you.